954-717-7027. License 200999096.
1470 AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. Wake up with the Steve Kane Show.
Just tell me what your problem is.
With replays overnight, every night. WNN. Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, tune in to the Dr. Bob Martin Show. From erectile dysfunction to eczema, heartburn to headaches, carpal tunnel to how to lower cholesterol drug-free. Sunday mornings at 10 on Talk 1470 WNN.
If you suffer with diabetes, there's a 25% chance that you'll develop a foot ulcer that can lead to severe health consequences, including amputation. At the sole authority, at little or no cost, you can receive your very own therapeutic shoes and custom inserts. Medicare recipients are entitled to 1 pair of quality diabetic shoes and 3 custom inserts. Call the sole authority today, 954-597-7060.
What you want to know. What you need to know. Talk 1470 WNN.
This is Alyssa, the Paint Girl. Car accidents happen. Get the most affordable, convenient, superior vehicle repair with concierge service. The Paint Girl provides pickup and delivery with no additional cost. Our body shops have over 30 years combined experience. The Paint Girl handles all makes, models, lease return repairs, and insurance claims. Your smart choice for vehicle repair, the Paint Girl. Call 954-691-7024. That's 954-691-7024.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. AMP2.TV presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on AMP2.TV. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Hello to the business world and beyond. Welcome to the Tell Us Your Business show. I'm going to get right into it because we have a lot to talk about, including a big event coming up this weekend. Wow, it's already here with Heads Up Florida. So we have with us Suzanne Spencer. She's a civic activist and leadership consultant at Heads Up Florida. So tell us a little bit about Heads Up Florida, and then we'll give out a little information about the event.
Yeah, so Heads Up Florida was actually founded by myself and my colleague, who's not here today, Dr. Rivital Goodman. And we came together to found the initiative based on vicarious trauma in school personnel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't know, do you know a lot about vicarious trauma?
No, I don't, actually.
So vicarious trauma, actually, you can think of it in another sense, in more of a positive light in other situations. Sometimes we've heard the term living vicariously through someone else, and usually that's in a positive context, right? I'm living vicariously through a friend or through a child or what in those situations. However, in this case, we're talking about vicarious trauma as in when a person, or in this case school personnel, deeply empathize with the suffering of their students in the classroom. So it becomes a detriment, a struggle for them. It changes things about their worldview. It affects them professionally. It can affect them personally. So we're talking about vicarious trauma in school personnel. And what's interesting about it, David, is that it can be unidentified.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say school personnel, are we talking anyone from teachers, librarians, to people working at maybe on the school grounds that are there every day?
That's a great question because, yes, it's the probably most obvious person that we may consider would be a teacher because they're in direct contact with the classroom. But vicarious trauma can affect or impact any school personnel that's in constant exposure to a child who suffers from adverse childhood experiences. So yes, it could be the person in the cafeteria. It could be the guidance counselor. It could be anyone who's in chronic exposure and daily contact with a student and their adverse childhood experiences. Absolutely.
Because working at a school, I mean, the personnel spends a lot of time there, sometimes more than they probably spend with their family, right? Because I was going to work early the other day, and I went by Spanish River High School, and I was earlier than normal over there, and there was a line at like 6:30 of cars pulling in. I couldn't believe it, all the headlights, and I thought, oh my, they're going to high school at 6:30. That's people dropping their kids off, or that's students pulling in, or maybe even personnel. So they're there 6:30, getting up at 6 a.m. to at least 3 p.m. every day. That's 9 hours.
And when we're talking about vicarious trauma, we're talking about the adverse childhood experiences that children go through in their daily lives. So what does that mean? Well, we know that a high percentage of our children today are going through homelessness. We know that there's neglect. We know that there's abuse. We know that there's poverty. So think about the classroom today and a teacher who is impacted by seeing her students, kids that she wants to impact positively, suffer. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about.
That can be tough. And you mentioned poverty, and I didn't know this until a few years ago. I was actually a newspaper reporter before this, and in some of the areas of the city that I was covering, I had found out that kids were going to school malnourished, and that I had never, seen that before, and I was shocked that was happening. And I know the county's got involved and they've done a lot to help out with that, but that must be tough for a teacher or even a custodian. I remember we're friends with the maintenance crew there at the elementary school and whatnot. Even would help them from time to time to get out of a certain class. But you kind of become, they know your life and you know theirs.
You become engaged with each other, right? You become involved, and it starts to, boundaries start to get confusing. So yes, it can be very difficult for all employees at all different levels, and that's what we're there to address. And one of the things about vicarious trauma is that sometimes it can be unidentified. So a teacher or school personnel may not even realize that they're being impacted by this, but they may start to wonder, am I burnt out of my job? Am I still able to perform my job the way I was when I came in here? And why am I feeling like this? So they start to question things like their self-efficacy. They start to wonder, is it time for me to look for another career? When really it could be signs that vicarious trauma is what's happening.
And so I actually have, I'm just thinking about this in my mind. My uncle, Jack, he used to teach literature in a high school in Chicago, and he actually only taught 1 year because he had a hard time. He was put in this is many, many decades ago, but he was put into the south side of Chicago, and he had a tough time with the way the students were being treated in the school and whatnot. He actually quit teaching because of it after 1 year. He actually went to well and pump sales, and he's actually down here now, but he's got such a love with literature, and it's the reason I love reading and reading Ernest Hemingway and whatnot. But that actually happened to him, and I was just thinking in my mind as we're talking, this is such a unique help that you're offering.
Yes.
I've never heard of this.
And what you describe, it is exactly what we're talking about, right? So your uncle, you described, left the profession. But what if he had known that he could call it something? What if he understood, wait a second, there's something that I can do. There's professional training I could get. there's assistance to understand what is actually taking place so that I can know how to take care of myself. And what if the organization, the school system, what if they knew what it was their teachers were experiencing, and if they also could put organizational systems in place that would help the teachers and support them so that they weren't leaving their jobs? Because, like, as you just pointed out, we look at teacher engagement, we look at teacher retention. All these things are impacted as a result of those who may experience vicarious trauma. So what was interesting about this, Dr. Goodman and I actually started off doing this professional development training with another professional population. In my previous role, I was the head of the Delray Beach Drug Task Force. And so a lot of my work has always been around substance abuse and helping design initiatives between community and stakeholders to address some of the most prevalent substance abuse issues we have today in our city, in the city of Delray. So one of the things that I looked at before I stepped down from the drug task force was the impact the opiate crisis was having on some of our professional populations. It was as a result of that when Dr. Rivital, who was the doctor who served those populations, and I met, that we determined that, wait a second, we think there's another professional population that could benefit from the support, from the training, from the identification of vicarious trauma that will help them in their jobs. And that's how we were led to our school professionals.
Wow, and that's a great thing that you're doing. You're probably thinking, what is he doing over there? I'm actually typing this.
What are you doing over there?
Yeah, and I'm putting this on Facebook Live. We're actually live on AMP2 TV on Facebook Live, as you can see us on the screen there. So I'm actually sharing this out there because they're nice enough to...
Was I talking too fast? Or
no,
you're
you
type
great.
That fast?
No, I just wanted... I didn't want to be rude. I wanted to tell you exactly what I was up to because I'm telling people... I'm teasing them about the upcoming event, which we're gonna talk about here. So, yeah, that's great. I didn't know you had a tie to Delray Beach. I have a very unique tie to Delray Beach as well.
Tell me.
I was the Delray Forum weekly newspaper reporter from 2007 to 2013. So now it's called the Delray Sun. It's part of Sun Sentinel Community News.
Okay.
And we produced a lot of community news weekly in Delray. Everything from the city commission to artists, different building going on in the city, the police report, everything. So sports, community sports. So actually, it did so well that the Sun Sentinel started using it as their community news arm for their Sunday edition. So it'd be the front page, and instead of local section, it'd be community news. Would be second on Sundays. Would be all the Delray forums.
Wow!
And now they're huge. They're called the Delray Sun now. They changed their name. And we were talking a little before you came on. So I actually took a job in healthcare in 2013 with Tenet Florida Physician Services, their employed physician group here in South Florida, with the Tenet Health Network, which has 10 hospitals. But a friend of mine started the Pineapple newspaper in Delray Beach and asked me if I'd still stay on and freelance. So I wanted to keep writing on the side, so I started freelancing.
Once a writer, always a writer.
Yeah, and then so I was with the Pineapple for years, and then they were actually sold. My editor, Jeff Diaz, moved to the Poconos, a lifelong dream. He sold the newspaper, and we sold it. They sold it to Jeff Perlman.
Jeff
who
Perlman.
you know, the former mayor of Delray Beach.
That's right.
And to turn this all the way 360, Jeff Perlman used to be the Delray Forum reporter 9.5 years before I was, and then obviously went on to be the mayor of Delray Beach and to work with Celsius, and now I think he's working with a brand called Tabanero, which is this amazing hot sauce. Oh, I put on everything. It's amazing. And that's a shout out for you, Jeff. But
well,
yeah, Jeff
I definitely
Perlman,
want to give Jeff Perlman a shout out.
He's great.
He's a great man, a great leader, and he's always been very good to everything I've tried to create and start heart for our city of Delray Beach, so I appreciate him.
And he was a great mayor, too, and I know he's got a book out that I've been meaning to get over to hands and grab, which I'm going to do that.
Is it a new one or the...
Oh, he wrote a few years ago.
Yeah,
but I just never grabbed it, but it's on my list. You know, you got that list when you have time. So also who owns the paper is Woo Creative. They're a marketing branding company in Delray, Ryan Boylston, and then Fran Marincola of the restaurant there in Luna Rosa, Cafe Luna Rosa in Delray Beach. And then there's a principal owner and whatnot, principal behind it. Yeah, so it's great. So I keep writing for them. So I still do articles for them, Delray Newspaper and BocaNewspaper.com. But I know you. So
I know both Jeff and Scott.
Okay, Scott Porton. That's the principal.
Yes.
Okay, I only met Scott once. So
yes,
I knew his first name was Scott. Just wanted to make sure I had the last name right.
They're both top of my list.
Yeah. So we have a lot of connections we didn't even know.
Do. Yes,
I'm sorry I didn't get to interview you when you were with the Drug and Task Force, but. Hey, there's still time with this. You have a big event coming up this weekend. Let's talk a little bit about that. It's a workshop, right?
Yeah, so it's Heads Up Florida workshop. It's going to be happening at Old School Square this Saturday. So that's May 19th. It starts at 8:30 a.m. It's being sponsored. It's free to all school personnel. And it doesn't matter if you're in Palm Beach County, if you're in Broward County, if you're in Martin County. If you are able to make the drive and get there, it's all free. It's a 3-hour workshop from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. It's being sponsored, and I really have to say thank you because, you know, when we created an initiative like this, you look for visionaries, companies that understand the need and want to support the professionals and the impact that it can have. And Karen Renaissance was a great supporter. They came on board as a visionary sponsor. And also Fusion Academy. Fusion Academy is a new model private school that does one-on-one tutoring that was very instrumental as a visionary partner as well. And because of their graciousness, everything is free to the teachers during the workshop.
And the website is headsupflorida.com. So it's actually, it's headsupfl.com.
Correct.
Let me just make sure. So headsup, HEADSUPFL.com. And I was just rolling over the sponsors as you were saying them because I wanted to learn a little bit more. And you can actually click on the links and it takes you to the sponsors.
It takes you directly
to
the sponsors. Smart. Yes, and then we're having breakfast that morning. So we had Avenue Church came on to sponsor breakfast, and also BSA Construction. BSA Construction in Delray.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I see them here as well. There's some great sponsors. So, where is it in Old School Square? Is it outside? Is it in the
It's inside. It's going to be in the Ocean Breeze room. Do you know Old School Square?
You're very familiar with every single room there.
So, Rob Steele, have to give props to Old School Square as well because they offered up the site to host the teachers. And, I mean, everyone you talk to about this initiative has embraced it and has been like, wow, this is something, this is needed, this could have great impact. And we're really, really excited about it. Dr. Goodman couldn't be here with me today, but we're also identifying other professional populations that could benefit from this training because we're in trauma times right now. And so we're about to be, there are other populations that could too benefit who are in direct exposure.
Maybe some of the people who actually see traumas like EMTs or police or fire.
Or news professionals.
Oh, yeah, that is tough. I pitch to a lot of news, and a lot of my pitches actually get pushed off the air because of breaking news, because of shootings. A lot of PR people will tell you that. And it's tough because you got a great story and you can just be pushed off because that's what, there's a lot of breaking news in South Florida, unfortunately.
But media in general, think about, because vicarious trauma, as I said at the beginning, is about empathy and identifying and feeling someone else's pain. And it's about chronic exposure. So think about our media and how they witness every day. It could be not just witnessing live events, but it could be auditory, hearing the story that you're from the person you're interviewing. It could be emotional witnessing, right? So actually seeing the impact. So our media could be the next professional population that we also look to offer professional development training to.
And you said early on the drug and opioid crisis. So that story's been ongoing here for a very long time. And we've kind of, shut out. We've heard so many stories, but like we're listening in the background, and there's always seems to be a story that ties into Palm Beach County or Southern Palm Beach County. And, that's got to be, over time taking its toll as well.
Yeah, it was definitely one thing about Delray Beach, and whether that be during my time as head of the drug task force and today, I think we have so many great leaders in Delray Beach, and we have so many great people that take action. And Delray is always willing to pioneer efforts to make things different. And that, in my role at the Delray Beach Drug Task Force at the time, it was the stakeholders that sat around a table every month and throughout those days to look at the opioid crisis, to look at education, to look at prevention, all the work that Chief Goldman put in place. Delray is very something special.
Yeah, and I got to give you kudos and to everyone else in that community, because I'll tell you, I'm from Palm Beach County. That came out of nowhere. I'm from Jupiter originally, and it's become even a problem up there that way as well. And when I was living in Delray as a reporter, it came out of nowhere and came on full tilt all the way to the abuse of doctors with the prescriptions, and then to the heroin getting in. And a lot of people know I used to be a sous chef, and actually lost 5 friends.
Hospitality is a big instances of
2010 to 2013. These were all great individuals. A lot of them came to Delray for help and were helped for a very long time. But as you have probably talked about in the past, once the opioids get to your brain receptors, it's a whole different battle because when it starts affecting your brain, it's different. But it's gotten so much better. Now I talk to people where I used to work the restaurant in downtown Delray Beach, where I lost a few friends.
A lot of people, a lot of leaders came together to make things happen, from the state attorneys, Sober Home Task
Dave
Force,
I've interviewed for the paper.
Chief Goldman.
Chief Jeff Goldman in Delray.
Chief Goldman in Delray.
Well, Delray Beach Police as a whole have been great, and Delray Beach Fire Rescue too.
Absolutely, our fire rescue. I mean, the nature of their jobs have changed so much.
Chief Dunkelman, I used to interview her as well. I know she left, but...
I'm not familiar with Chief.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Okay.
I'm going back to my days a while back.
But what's interesting is when you look at vicarious trauma, whether it be in school personnel or other professional populations, indirectly it can lead to substance abuse, right? Because how do people, when they don't really understand what's taking place, why do I feel the way I do? Why do I feel anxious? Why do I feel angry? Why is this spilling over into my personal life? It increases chances that someone may turn to self-medication or substance abuse behaviors. So indirectly, we also have to look at the impact of trauma on substance abuse incidences and rates.
Now, did you and your team start Heads Up Florida?
Dr. Rivital Goodman and I did.
Okay, she did, and you did as well.
Yeah.
That's a great name. I'm just looking at the site as we talk.
Well, actually, the name I also have to give Kristin, who's out there, because Kristin is doing our publicity for us, which is what brought us on here today. Thank you to her for that.
Kristin Knopfsinger.
Yeah,
I actually was at an event today. Yeah, that's why I was grabbing it, because I know her as Kristin as well. But.
Yeah, so Kristin, when we were brainstorming together, we were tossing around names, and I think she was the one that said, what about, it sounds like we're talking about, like, we got to give people the heads up. And that's how we came up with Heads Up Florida, with the intention of Heads Up Georgia, Heads Up, because incidences of adverse childhood experiences are happening all over the country. So there are some states that have higher incidences, which means that if we're looking at school personnel, they would have even greater exposure. So it's very, very very, very interesting in what the development can be in the future.
And it's headsupfl.com.
Yes.
And yeah, kudos to Kristin. So to tell us your business, let's give her a shout out. It's Kristin Rose Image Consulting, KRI Image Consulting, and that's Kristin Knopfsinger. So you can check her out at Kristin R. That's KRISTENR.com. That's great. And she's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. So we're telling people about the businesses. Wow, this is a great event. And like you said, it's in the Ocean Breeze Room. That's very smart this time of the year because, boy, that humidity lately has just tuned up. And if you're outside for a few minutes, I'm actually going to be over at the last Delray Green Market right next to you. Well, the last of the fall market. My wife's actually a pastry chef, and we do that, but we don't do the summer market. But I may cruise over at one point or another and see if I can
Maybe
pitch
there's a
my
story
editor
there
for
you might want to write about
DelrayNewspaper.com and BocaNewspaper.com.
When we come back from break, let's talk about the leadership component, about what makes Heads Up Florida special as well, because Dr. Goodman is addressing it. She's a trauma specialist, so she will be addressing the workshop and the participants from the context of how do they help sort of regulate their internal systems. But I'm a leadership consultant, and I'll be looking at it from the context of how do we address the organizational system and its wellness. So when we come back from break, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I got to see if we're going to go to break. We've been talking so much, I ran right through it, but we'll see. So Dr. Goodman, I was thinking of this kind of focus that she may be like a doctor of education, but she's actually a physical medicine doctor?
She is a trauma specialist, so she's a clinician, and she actually specializes in EMDR. You want to look that one up?
Yeah, I've never heard
EMDR.
I learned so much from doing this show.
I want to say it's eye movement rapid desensitization. Did I right? Yes.
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a psychotherapy treatment.
Yeah, so Dr. Goodman has been doing and training on this particular therapy for a number of years now, and what she is going to help those who attend understand and learn is, one, how do we identify vicarious trauma in our systems, and how do we start to find balance, or how do we start to regulate, or how do we start to calm down the systems that may be agitated as a result of vicarious trauma and activation. So really interesting components of it.
Because isn't one of the hormone of stress is actually cortisol? So when you have that fear of anything, it can cause a lot of health issues.
Fight or flight.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to exactly. And it can cause inflammation. They say it has a lot to do with people who are overweight. If they just cut down their stress early on, they can lose weight. I actually talked to someone who did this, and I've been thinking about it because I have a high stress level, believe it or not, in PR and marketing. And yeah, if she can help with that, that's great, because we need teachers, we need emergency personnel, etc. We need them to be like treated like we treat professional athletes, because that's our future.
That's definitely our future. And on the leadership side, so we're going to look at things. How do you help when the systems are working well in the organization? How does that help health and functioning? Because people and teachers spend so much time at work, we have to know that healing doesn't just happen at home. It's going to happen in the workplace, and it affects our work, right? So think of all the times just in everyday life where we bring our life to work with us, right? But we also can build organizational resilience, and the way we can do this is by, helping the community build peer support, by having leadership acknowledge that there is actually situations and trauma that's impacting our school personnel. We can learn to what things we have control over and what things we don't have control over. So there's a whole number of leadership systems that we could actually look at.
Well, thank you so much, Suzanne, for sharing that information. Everyone go to headsupflorida.com, find out more.
Heads Up FL.
Headsupfl.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866